in media literacy campaign. Woo!
Hello. Hi, I'm Kate. I'm from GLOBSEC, and you're in my hometown, so welcome everybody. I hope you like it, and I hope you're going to take very good memories out of coming to Bratislava. Not a lot of people know where Bratislava or where Slovakia is, so you made it to the right country. I'm going to talk about our experience, how we in GLOBSEC started to communicate with the public and how eventually we develop our communication strategies. We'll see how that goes. In GLOBSEC, we started to monitor disinformation media and disinformation back in 2015. After the annexation of Crimea, we found out that there was a huge flow of disinformation that was spreading in this region about NATO, European Union, basically questioning the geopolitical orientation of countries of Central Europe. And we thought about, okay, so how are we going to communicate what NATO does or what NATO stands for among the public, you know? It was 2016. There was no Mr. NATO. I don't think that Slovakia has that kind of soldiers in their military forces. I don't think that we have that kind of Viking-looking Thor fighting for my country. I would love to meet him if we have. So I don't know. I mean, like, so come on, wouldn't you like to meet him? Right? Right? His name is Mr. Lieutenant Lasse Matberg, and he's Mr. NATO, and he was very much involved in the NATO press and public communication connected to the training NATO Trident Structure. But, we didn't have him in 2016, and we didn't have him in Slovakia now. So we tried to explain what does NATO do by creating various animated videos, trying to debunk the traditional and most spread disinformation about NATO in my country. So we produced 3 videos explaining that NATO is not aggressor, trying to defeat the Russian Federation, trying to explain the numbers of NATO soldiers deployed in Europe, and trying to, for example, explain the principle of collective security. But while eventually the videos have been, widely viewed and several tens of thousands of people saw them, we eventually started to question, are we the right people that should be communicating this message? Because this is our counterparts, Our counterparts are the trolls, our counterparts are the people who produce videos that look like video games. After watching them, you eventually said, like, I'm in, sold. Give me the Nintendo. I want to play that game because that message is so compelling. So we were trying to think of how to deliver our message because, I'm a researcher by nature. And I don't think that I'm a very well-known person in Slovakia, and person in eastern part of Slovakia or in Czech Republic, they don't know me and why they should listen to me. So, and plus, other thing that, according to the disinformation website, I'm a Soros patsy, I'm a CIA agent, I'm a army lobbyist, just because of the way and the work I do, just because of the place that I work at, or just because of the universities I studied at. So they would not be listening to me. That's why we started to look for the credible voices. We realized that we need to sell our research using credible voices, using the people who have the voice and authority to point out, for example, to national authorities that disinformation is a threat, and we need to start building strategic communication capacities. We realize that we need to start working together with people who know to speak the lingo of the target audience. If I want to talk with the young people, I'm not going to ask my grandma to tell them a story. I mean, it's an interesting point, but we realize that we need to make our messages very simple and comprehensible so that everybody can understand them. And we need to work with people that the young or whatever the target audience is already following them and knows them. So we start to look for influencers. And since I work for an international organization that does a huge conference, the first people that we tried to approach were the experts. So during our conference, even Roman was being asked, I remember, we asked several experts 3 very simple questions. Why is disinformation a threat to democracy? What can be done about it? And what kind of the most ridiculous disinformation they heard about? And here are one example of the answers that we received. Okay, can you please play?
Well, first and foremost, the best measure is to think. So use the old instrument which is called your brain, which is actually very tricky. Because it requires a lot of work. We don't like to do that. So I think what we should do is make understanding misinformation fun.
Yeah, this was basically Nika's boss, director of NATO Strategic Communication Center of Excellence, talking about how people need to start using their brains. We had people talking about the reptilians or Ukrainian zombies. So we put together these kind of videos and eventually disseminating them via social media. But at the same time, we were looking for other kind of voices, nothing of an expert, something that normal people could rely on. That's why we started to collaborate with a stand-up comedian and a blogger. This is Jan Gordulic. He's very famous in Slovakia. He has own weekly show called Difficult Week with Jan Gordulic. He's like John Oliver of Slovakia, making fun of political satire and describing the events of the week in a very funny way. And we started to input content to him, sending him the disinformation on a daily basis, and he created a section called Hoax of the Week in his show and included it. But eventually, the political satire is not something that the young people eventually follow, and he's not the target of, he's not somebody that the young people would look at for. So we started to look and think about whom do the young Slovaks follow online. And that's when we eventually got together with the experts, ceasing communication experts, and tried to develop a very innovative campaign. And we found out, and we basically knew that the young follow video bloggers. That's why we got together with our partners from CSAME and approached 2 Slovak YouTubers, Exploited and Selassie. This were and this still are the number 2 and number 3 Slovak video bloggers. And we created together an innovative campaign that lasted a week and was based on basically a dispute between them that could be easily debunked. So they started a quarrel between them based on disinformation that we thought that their fans, hardcore fans, would eventually easily caught, but that didn't really happen. The disinformation and the campaign was generated and started as Insta stories in Instagram and eventually moved to YouTube. It became the trending topic in Slovak YouTube. It gradually spilled to the Czech Republic, and overall the reach on Instagram of both of the YouTubers was over 4 million. And afterwards, when the whole campaign was revealed, it received a huge coverage in mainstream media, both in Czech Republic and Slovakia. So let's have a look how it went.
Čaute exoti, moje meno je Exploited. Dobrý deň.
Exploited and Selassie, two top Slovak YouTubers, unleashed a controversy based on false information.
Pán Selassie na streame hovorí, že čo sa ja serem do streamovania?
Lážo, prosím, môžem byť s vami v tom videu? Tak si povedal, že chce do videa slona.
They showed what a single piece of unverified information can do. The hate-filled videos were pushed by fans to the top of YouTube's trending page for Slovakia. The YouTubers released joint videos revealing that the hateful videos were for a good cause. And, in the end, they provided a valuable lesson.
Ty si na mňa povedal niečo na streame a ty si to neoveril. Či som to reálne na teba povedal. A dospeli sme až k tomu, že nám fanúšici prajú smrť.
They gave easy tips on how to identify information on the internet.
Keď čítate nejaký článok, otvorte si link, na ktorom je ten článok, kúknite si, kto je autor toho článku, či vôbec ten človek existuje.
Thousands of young people admitted they were wrong and promised that they will fact-check stuff they read online.
Viete, že čo bola pointa toho celého?
Áno, aby ľudia nedoverovali všetkému, čo sa na internete dozvedia.
Aby v podstate ľudia neverili všetkému a takto.
Videos depicting the positive messages of the campaign had more views than the hateful videos themselves. Will you fact-check it?
So, what did we learn? We learned that we need to think out of the box, that we need to work with professionals. You know, we're researchers, but there are lots of people who communicate with people. You need to know what does your audience want, and you need to get the data on them. For example, I mean, 500,000 of young people were reached by this campaign. Apart from doing this kind of public raising campaigns, we do also pollings. We did in 2017. We did polling in April and in November, and we found out that 6% more in the age group from 18 to 24 people more thought that mainstream media provides more legitimate and objective information. And by 10%, you know, within that 6 months period, we observed 10% drop in that age group from 18 to 24 years, where less people thought that there are secret society groups aiming to establish a totalitarian world order. We cannot take credit that this was all about our achievement, but eventually these kind of campaigns make sense and can work, but we need to really think out of the box, find the right voices for the right audience, and don't be afraid to take risk and try things. You really, really have to try things. So at the moment, we're in the process of having a different campaign. It's called Music Against Hoaxes. It's not Michael Jackson, but it's music still. Basically, we approached, along with our partner's creative department, a Slovak rapper. He wrote a song called David. It's about online trolls. It's about disinformation being spread. It's about people who think that the world is flat, who drink chemicals because they think that they're going to cure cancer. And he created a clip. He created a song, but he doesn't have an official video. So now he's calling to the public, hey guys, shoot a very short video, 3 to 5 seconds, no matter on what topic, addressing the song, and just post it on your Facebook, post it on your Instagram with that hashtag hudbou proti hoaxom, and you might be in a music video, So any of you, if you want to be in a music video, if that was ever on your bucket list and when you cross that out, there's your opportunity. So, join us, help us fight the disinformation any way you can and any way you want. And thanks for paying attention. Thank you.
I'm going to ask you to still stay here because we have some time for questions.
Okay.
If there's anyone that has any questions?
There's a gentleman in the back. Yeah.
Thank you for your presentation.
I'm
I'm Maxim from Influencers Hub Moldova. So my question is, how did you convince the influencers to work with you? Was it the monetary motivation, the personal contact, or something else? What was their motivation to cooperate with you?
I think that for them, in order to get to them, it was very useful that we were working with the organization that had some personal connections with them and they knew them. So, but I think that the real motive behind them was to eventually see how easily their fans could be moved by any kind of disinformation. They themselves are public personalities and lots of disinformation is being spread about them. So in a way, this was a fact check also for them. What eventually happened that when this campaign was launched, their fans really split against each other. There was like any kind of Twilight fans. There was a Team Edward and Team Jacob hating each other. There was so much hate in that campaign. Within 48 hours, the YouTubers were getting death threats from each other fan base. At some point, the video bloggers called up on their fans to, supply them with dirt on each other, and the amount of really ridiculous things that the fans were able to produce eventually was a good wake-up call and check for themselves that how easily their fans can turn on them, and also how fragile their fame is, because they are dependent on their followers. And one day you think that you have a huge base of hardcore fans whom you think that they know each other, and they love you, and then just like that, from one day to another, you lose several thousands of followers, and another several thousands of followers are wishing you death threats. So I think it was a checkup for them, and they themselves wanted to. They loved the campaign and wanted to take part in it.
Judging by the story you just shared, what do you think, will any of influencers ever participate in such a campaign in human history again?
Yes and no. But the campaigns cannot be really, our campaign is not something that you can just take and drop it and use it in a different country. You need to modify and do any kind of raising awareness activities based on your environment, and it cannot be something that you can just copy paste. And in my country, you have various influencers that are eventually doing and taking part in raising awareness campaigns, but our was a bit specific, And at the end of the, at the revelation of the campaign and the idea behind it, they themselves were like, okay, I'm sorry that we pranked you and actually you all got punked, but it served the purpose, and they showed that it served the purpose. And they themselves, it was very shortly played in the video, provided, with the hints to their followers of what they should do. That if I say something, maybe you should really check up and see who's the source of that information, and you should not really trust on he said, she said, that kind of thing. So it didn't really steer them from taking part of and from participating in different campaigns, but I think it's not something that you can really replicate that easily.
Great. Thank you. One last question, if there is.